Which bipod is right for you? This week on Mail Call Mondays. I'm John McQuay with 8541 Tactical, and this is Mail Call Mondays, the show that answers your questions about precision rifles, optics, and equipment. We have been receiving a bunch of questions through email and private messages and so forth on bipods. So today we're going to cover a couple of different varieties of bipods and show you some features that are really valuable to you and maybe some features that you want to stay away from. Now, first off, I want to say that if we're not showing your favorite bipod here, please don't send me any hate mail. There are hundreds of bipods out there. I just grabbed 3 that are representative of some of the features that are out there. Especially on the top end, we just really don't have the resources right now to grab every top end bipod out there. There are 2 specifically that I would have liked to have included in this, but we'll have to do separate reviews on them if we get a chance later on. Let's start from the bottom end. I actually, first of all, went to Walmart yesterday and hoped to find just a really cheap bipod hanging on the rack there, but Walmart, surprisingly enough, was totally out of bipods. I didn't even see a spot where they could stock bipods. They used to have some cheap end bipods, apparently not anymore. So I ran over to Gander Mountain and picked up the least expensive bipod that I figured was oriented towards precision rifle shooting in their rack. And that ended up being a Champion Shooting Gear 6 to 9 inch bipod. Now this is really a no frills bipod. It looks a lot like a Harris design, but it is missing some key features from our favorite Harris bipod. Now it does attach to a rifle sling swivel in the exact same manner that the Harris bipods attach, and if I can get the little grippies through here, I will show you. They have this little gripper right here that grabs onto your sling swivel, and then there is a slotted screw on the back to tighten it down. That's kind of nice that they put a slot in there so you can use a coin or a knife blade or whatever to get some tension on there. The Harris bipods, they usually just have a thumb wheel, and they've got a Allen key in the middle of that you can use to tighten it down. Now, the Champion bipod that we have here, the legs just flip out very simply, and that's how it sits on the rifle. To extend the legs, you just simply grab a hold of them and pull them out until they lock into their notch. Now the notch, there's only one notch on them. There's only one position. You can lock them fully out. To release them, you can push the notch and they spring back in. So the spring tension is on the inside. As you can see, if I pull them out here, it just wants to pop back in. If I want to lock them out at an intermediate distance, not fully out, then I have to pull it out, and I have this little thumb wheel here that I can use to tighten down and hold the leg in that position. I can't release it. The only way to retract it is again by turning this little thumb wheel, and you see the leg pops back in. This works, but the problem you run into is when you go to deploy this bipod and set it up on uneven terrain under time, you're going to have to hold the rifle level with one hand. You're going to have to pull out the leg with the other hand, and then try to hold the leg out and turn this thumb wheel tight enough to lock the leg out with the other hand. And it's very fiddly, especially since these wheels are pointing away from you, so you have to kind of reach around or reach underneath and get them tightened up. And then if you don't get them tightened up enough, then it's just going to fall over on its own. So you really have to be careful with that. A lot of guys I'm seeing using these bipods are just snapping the legs fully out and just dealing with it, not even using the intermediate settings. Now this runs into a separate problem that we have. If you see up here, there is no swivel built into this. It is locked out. You adjust the cant of the rifle by adjusting the position of the legs. So if you're on uneven terrain, you're going to have to use the legs to adjust the cant of the rifle. There's no just popping the legs out and then leveling the rifle out with your hand. If you are not really paying attention, this can definitely result in you getting the rifle kicked off to one side or the other, which is going to have results at long range. Now, the durability of this, it feels like a rather well-built bipod. Of course, this one I believe is made in China. They'll say made in China. So it is Chinese made, but overall it has a whole lot of the same design features as the actual Harris bipod. The things that really make the difference is when you look at the way the legs are constructed, or the bracket that the legs kick into. It's a lot thinner on this model. It's really just got a wire holding the two together. This is going to bend and deform a whole lot quicker than a real Harris bipod. But the thing that you're looking at is this is about half to 1/3 the price of a similar Harris bipod. So you have to keep that in mind. This is really well suited if you're going to stick it on a 22 trainer or something like that. You're mainly going to shoot from a bench or a level concrete pad. I would not try to use this for field shooting. Now we move over to my favorite intermediate price bipod. By the way, this ran me about $59 at Gander Mountain. You can find them online for cheaper than that. I think I was finding them on Amazon for about 30 bucks. So they are floating around pretty cheap. You're not going to get hurt bad if you go with this. Now, the Harris bipod that I have here runs a little over 100 bucks online, and this one has been modified with a KMW pod lock on it, and we'll talk about the pod lock here in just a second. In fact, you can go back and you can look at our installation video. We'll leave a link down below on where we install the pod lock and really talk about the benefits and drawbacks at length on it. The Harris bipod, again, uses this little gripper to grab the sling stud and then a thumb screw to tighten it down on the rifle. The system works fairly well. I haven't really had much problem with this loosening up. I used it quite a bit on a working rifle in the past. I still have one on my AR-10 right now because it does not have a bottom pick rail. It just has sling studs on the Badger forend, so I'm running one of these on that rifle. The springs on it are fairly stiff. The legs spring out, and that is how it sits on the rifle with the rifle forend. The pod lock points towards the rear so you can loosen or tighten it. Now, the BRM-S bipod, which is what this is, it works a little bit differently. The legs on it are notched, and the spring pressure is holding the leg towards the deployed angle. If I push the release, the leg will spring out, and you see we have little notches on here. Now, the benefit of this design is if I have it mounted on the rifle and I'm on uneven terrain, then all I need to do is sit down, get the rifle leveled out, and then push this release button, and the leg will spring out and lock at the correct height for that side. There's no goofing around with it, just pressure locks it in. Now, as you can see what we had there, it rebounded a little bit because this is a hard surface. But even if it rebounds, we now have a swivel top. So when the pod lock is unlocked and the rifle is on here, it can swivel from side to side. And so you can get that last little bit of leveling knocked out. And then if you want to really tighten it down, you can lock it down with the pod lock to be completely solid. The Harris BRM-S bipods, they really give you a whole lot of options as far as what you can do on the rifle. They are quick to deploy if you're running in a 3-gun type situation or you really need to get this thing out. What a lot of guys will do is they'll tie a piece of 550 cord across so they can just grab the 550 cord loop and rip it back, and it'll deploy both legs at the same time. Deploying them individually is still fairly fast. Just make sure when you're goofing around with the bipod like I am here that you don't pinch your fingers in it, because these springs are very, very stiff. Now, there are no tension knobs on here. When you want to close the legs, you just simply push the latch in and then slide the leg in, and the springs are right here. So when you push it in, it'll latch close and it'll give you that spring force to pop the legs out again. If you get them about intermediate length out, then there's no spring pressure. You can push that button all day long and it's not going to spring out. You'll still have to pull them out and lock them in for fine adjustment. This is really my recommended bipod if you're only going to spend, about $100 on a bipod. If you really can't go to the top tier of bipods, then this is good to go. It's been in use in the military and law enforcement for a very long time. They hold up very well. They'll get rusty from time to time if you don't take a whole lot of care, but you can just bust the rust with a brush and shoot some paint on them and they're good to go. The one that I've got on my work rifle right now has got paint covering it. It's been scratched and dinged and banged around, and it still works great. The pod lock is a great addition that really increases the utility of this bipod. Now we'll start moving into the top tier of bipods. This bipod right here is an Atlas version 8.1 bipod. We'll leave some links down below on the B&T website where the Atlas version 8.1 is located at. Right now, I believe B&T is not filling individual orders, so the best way to get a hold of one of these bipods is through a stocking retailer. Triad Tactical had some the last time I checked, but we will leave some links on where you can go to try to find these. Now, the Atlas version 8.1 bipod, I've been using a version 8 on my match rifle, on my Accuracy International AE Mark II for quite some time. B&T makes a spigot mount instead of the clamp mount on top of here that will snap right into the AI's spigot. This has an ADM throw lever mount on it that will allow you to attach it to a Picatinny rail, and this worked great when we did our Accuracy International AX308 review. We've also used it on a couple other rifles, and it will be going on the Ma-10 as well when we take that out to the range and start doing the range trials on it. Now, some of the really nice features on the Atlas version 8.1, first of all, are the legs. If you compare the two bipods side by side, you notice that the Atlas is a whole lot more streamlined. There's a whole lot less going on than with the Harris bipod. However, it has a lot of the same features. One thing, the legs still pivot down to a 90-degree angle like the Harris, but you have the additional option of doing 45 degrees forward or 45 degrees back should you decide to do so, and just little buttons there to kick them forward or back. You can even close the bipod with the legs to the rear if you wish. It just gives you a bunch of extra options because when you kick the legs at a 45-degree angle, you're getting a little bit less height on it. So where with the Harris, you would be limited to what the lowest leg compression length is. With the Atlas version 8.1 or even the version 8, you can just kick the legs forward and still reduce that angle some more. The legs on the Atlas bipod deploy just by grabbing the locking collar here and pulling forward. There's no spring pressure in them. There's no spring keeping them out or trying to pull them in. It's just manual operation on them. Now, one of the advantages of the version 8.1 over the 8, the 8.1 adds this wider ring down here at the base of the collar, and it makes it a whole lot easier, especially with gloved hands, to pull the locking collar down. And as you can see, it's very easy for me just to pull this down and lock it at whatever distance I need and then close it back up. The really great benefit of this is as you have it sit on the rifle, again, if we run into a situation where the rifle would be canted, you can just grab the collar and just pull down on the collar and get it to seat. You really don't have to grab the leg at all. Just pull down on the collar and down it goes and locks in. Obviously, this is a whole lot easier with a rifle attached, but we didn't want to waste time taking bipods off and putting them on various different rifle systems. The Atlas version 8.1 has a ring right here, or a knurled knob, that adjusts the tension on the bipod, and when it's loosened up, it will allow you to manually adjust the cant, and also to some extent it will give fore and aft to allow you to really load that bipod. And what it allows is these little round feet. It really helps them grip the surface that you're on, which is very nice. One great added benefit of the Atlas bipods that you don't get with the Harris, and I've used this before, especially on shorter barrel rifles, is you can kick the legs forward at a 45-degree angle and then fully deploy them. And on something like the AX308 with a 20-inch barrel, when I do this, then that will actually allow me to set the edges of the legs on a windowsill and keep the muzzle inside the window. We've done this shooting from cars before, where I'll put these little feet right on the sill of the car door with the window rolled down, and the muzzle will stay inside the vehicle, and I can still fire that way without anything extending outside of the car. It's a really niche benefit, but it works very well. Same thing, you can kick the legs straight forward and you can deploy them and you can use them to rest on a barricade, and that will help you out greatly. It'll keep your muzzle off of anything, keep you from putting pressure in places that you shouldn't. The ADM clamp mount works great. It locks and unlocks very quickly. With this mount, it's adjustable for different rail dimensions, but you really don't have to get it tight to where you really have to mash the lever down. You can keep it a little bit loose because we're not worried about return to zero on a bipod mount. So that is good to go. The Atlas version 8.1 is available with either the ADM quick release mount, regular Picatinny rail clamp mount, or you can get it with no mount at all, which will allow you to select your options from the different mounts that B&T offers, for instance, the AI spigot mount. So it really gives you a lot of options. It's compact. It's about the same weight, just feeling in my hand with the clamp mount on it, as the Harris. So you're not really gaining any extra weight on the rifle. The one drawback is this is really not going to work on a regular sling stud mount. You're going to have to put some kind of rail on the front of your rifle in order to use an Atlas bipod. But when we're talking about the top tier of bipods, the Atlas is really giving you a whole lot of benefits. They have added add-ons, like you have little ball detents right here that you can pop the feet off, and you can pop on leg extensions, you can pop on various different feet accessories. So really, you get a ton of utility out of this bipod. I tend to like the little ball feet. You notice all the bipods here still have the regular rubber feet on them. I think they're the best for a wide variety of surfaces. The feet on the Atlas are a little softer than the feet on the Harris, and these tend to really grab well on concrete. They even grab well on automotive bodywork, so I can still get a little bit of a load on the bipod, even shooting across a car hood or a car trunk. So it's very, very nice. I love the fact that with this clamp mount, I can have one higher priced Atlas bipod, and I can just snap it from one rifle to the other, whichever one I'm taking out for the day. Or if I'm running a bunch of them, I can just toss this in the range bag, and when I get out there, throw it on the rifle that's up on the firing line, get done with it, pop it off, throw it on a different rifle. So it's really quick, and instead of having multiple bipods on multiple rifles, it may be wise for you to invest in one higher end bipod that you can move between different rifles. Really, I would say if you're shopping for a lower priced bipod, try to stay away from the bottom of the line. These ones where you don't have any notched legs, it's just going to cause you a whole lot of heartache later on in the field. I've seen them a lot on law enforcement rifles where the department tried to cheap out and didn't want to spend $100 on a bipod, and so they go with the cheapest bipod they can find, and it really just, it causes problems for the shooters later on. At a minimum, I suggest you go with the Harris BRM-S. I prefer the 6 to 9 inch size range. Really, if you're a big guy and you find that you're always running the bipod deployed, then maybe you want to go to one of the higher end, higher height range bipods. But even shooting AR-15s where you tend to have a higher bipod, I find the 6 to 9 works very well. If I'm getting into a situation where I'm beyond what the full 9-inch extended length of the bipod is going to work for, then I'm usually going to go to shooting off a pack or shooting off a tripod. Hopefully that gives you some ideas on what bipod may be best for your intended application. If you have any questions or comments on bipods, as always, please leave them in the comment section below or send them to us on Facebook or Twitter. If you've liked this episode, please give us a thumbs up. We really like to see those thumbs up. It helps our search rankings in the YouTube search results. So please go ahead and click that thumbs up right now. If you're a subscriber, thank you very much. If you're not a subscriber, please click subscribe. We really want to see that subscriber rating run up. I would really like to see us hit 20,000 this year, so we'll see how that goes. I also want to thank Tactical Advantage for sending us the cool t-shirt. On the back, it says, "Support the Second Amendment, not a victim." And we'll leave a link down below on where you can go to get one of these cool shirts. So, until next time, get out and shoot. Also want to mention to you guys that we have just uploaded the Accuracy International AX308 review video. I spent a lot of time working on this thing. It will go live on Tuesday morning, so if you would, come on back and take a look at that video when it goes live. Leave some comments down below and let me know what you think on it. Put a lot of work into it. That's really probably the most work I've put into a video here so far, but we're getting better. So please go check that out and make sure you click that thumbs up if you like that video as well. Thank you.